Okay, back with you on Open. Sal Albanese served as a New York City council member for 15 years, and he once again wants to serve as New York City's mayor. Here to discuss his mayoral campaign, please welcome Democratic candidate Sal Albanese. Nice to have you back, sir.
Gary, thank you. It's great being on your program. And great being in the Bronx, by the way.
Well, you know, you won't get an argument from me or any of the people around us, I can tell you that. Well, now, you've had a couple of failed attempts at being mayor. Why not just say, you know what, I tried, it didn't work out, I'm not going to do this again. Why are you going to do this?
Because I'm a reformer, and one of the reasons why I've had two prior runs and did not win is because of the tremendous fundraising problems that people run into as independent candidates. And one of the reasons why I'm running is I want to change the political culture in New York City. It's basically corrupt. We have a mayor who's under several investigations, pay-to-play is rampant, and I've got a plan to overhaul the campaign finance laws in New York City. And I think it's important because cities are becoming the laboratories now for reform. The federal government is, in my opinion, totally screwed up. The state government is a disaster in New York. And cities are really taking the lead in terms of reform. Seattle, the plan that I borrowed from Seattle is called democracy vouchers, which would eliminate pay-to-play in the city and basically would force elected officials to engage with neighborhoods, engage with regular people instead of calling every deep-pocketed, conflicted donor in the city, because that's what most of these folks do. If you look at the campaign finance reports of the candidates who are citywide candidates, the same lobbyists, it's the same, fixers, influence peddlers that are raising their money. And when they get there, you wind up like de Blasio under investigation. So, of course, Bloomberg didn't have to do that because he was loaded.
He had his own money.
But we need people who understand neighborhoods to run the city. We also need people who I believe are transparent and honest and aren't indebted to wealthy interests. So I've always run my campaigns like that. I think the time is ripe now for a candidate who's a reformer and has a plan. People will say, hey, great, Sal, so you're saying—
Here you are again.
Here I am. What's your solution to the problem? Well, I've got a solution. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I have a program called Democracy Vouchers. Go to my website and it'll explain it. It's a great program.
Many people would say, certainly supporters of Mayor de Blasio would say, he's under investigation. So it sounded like you've somewhat concluded that there's some bad business here, when maybe, we certainly would have to wait and see what comes down. He might not be indicted, and they might determine that, there really was no legal wrongdoing. It seems to me, in that case, you'd have to, every, American innocent until proven guilty.
I'm a lawyer, and I agree with you. Obviously, beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard for criminal convictions. However, what he's done is clearly unethical, and I say this throughout the city. Pay-to-play is unethical. You cannot be asking people who are doing business with the city to give you money, lots of money, and not have an appearance of impropriety. So what I'm saying is he's clearly done some very unethical things and maybe criminal. We don't know about the criminal component yet, but certainly unethical is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Let's talk about some of the other issues that are going to be in the campaign, and certainly I have dogged Mayor de Blasio through his term so far as mayor. I guess at the top of the list would have to be homelessness. We have 60,000 homeless. The mayor has now proposed a solution of building or creating, I think it was 90 more shelters. What do you think of that?
I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. You're not going to be able to open up 90 shelters in the city. Neighborhoods are going to fight that tooth and nail, and I'm not sure that's the solution to the problem. De Blasio's made homelessness worse under his tenure. By the way, he was considered an expert in that area. One of the few areas where de Blasio was considered knowledgeable on was homelessness, and nobody expected him to solve the problem because it's a problem, it's a national problem. But nobody expected him to make it worse. And the woman that he hired, who was highly touted, Deputy Mayor Payola, who worked for Bloomberg, worked for Giuliani. Really had some great experience, and she left because he wouldn't meet with her. So now we're in a position where he's coming up with this plan for 90 shelters, which I think is untenable. What I would do is focus on improving the mental health services in the city. They're totally uncoordinated. A significant number of folks that are homeless suffer from mental illness, and what we're doing is we're not doing the outreach that's necessary to keep them on their medication. They go into, for example, Rikers Island is the biggest mental hospital in the city. What happens in Rikers Island is these folks get stabilized. They wind up there a lot because they do stuff because of illness. They wind up in Rikers Island. They're stabilized because HHC has a program there. And then when they leave Rikers Island, nobody follows up, so they're back in the streets again. So I would improve coordination between DOH, Department of Health, that handles mental health issues, the Department of Corrections, and also Bellevue Hospital, and keep folks supported so that they can function, and you would eliminate.
Maybe be productive.
Exactly. There's no look. Mental illness is an illness, and if you treat it properly, people can be productive. And also, drug abuse and alcohol is another problem. And you need to have really good programs at the shelters of the city where you can offer some treatment to these folks.
Those are all interconnected, of course. Interconnected into the homeless problem is the lack of affordable housing.
Correct.
The mayor has a goal of building 200,000 units of affordable housing. Some of that has taken the form in the Bronx of rezonings of Jerome Avenue. There's a proposed rezoning of Southern Boulevard. Is this a successful path to take? Rezone some areas, add housing, build up commercial districts, and help people in the Bronx in particular do better?
Well, I think the Bronx is a tremendous borough that with great potential to build affordable housing. I'm not sure what they're going to build is affordable, because much of the so-called affordable housing is not affordable for folks that are homeless or even working class people. So we need to supplement that in some way, or really build affordable housing. In East New York, by the way, during the Bloomberg administration, the elected officials pushed hard to get Bloomberg to build affordable housing that the people in the neighborhood could afford. The affordable housing that's being built now, I don't believe is affordable by most folks.
How do you
working class folks?
Well, how do you do it? Of course, especially without the 421A program, developers are saying, you know what, we can't do it at the price it costs and still keep the rents down for people.
Well, I remember during the Koch administration, when I was a council member, he built 400,000 units of housing, and what they did was they worked with a lot of nonprofit developers. They provided the land and the infrastructure, and they built affordable housing. I'm not sure that the developers are really making a killing here. They're building these huge condos, and they put in a few so-called affordable housing units. And by the way, they're building high rises, which a lot of neighborhood groups are opposed to because the infrastructure isn't there.
Doesn't support it.
Exactly.
We're going to have to take a break. Sal, talk to me about how people can find you on the web. I'm sure they can find your campaign.
VoteForSal.com.
Okay.
Go to my website, VoteForSal.com. I'm not accepting money from lobbyists, and I need small donations from average New Yorkers.
We hope to have you back here on Open. Maybe I'll get you on Bronx Talk, and I know you're always a friend of the Bronx and a friend of our programs.
Well,
thank you very
Gary.
much.
Thank
Sal
you for having me
Albanese.
on.
Folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with the latest on national politics. Don't go away.